You can jump, monkey. You can do it, buddy. You can do it. All right, believe in yourself. That's what you gotta do. Just don't jump. Don't jump down in the pit. Jump over there. Don't jump, monkey. No, don't jump. I mean jump.
That says a lot about our society. Anyways, here's more of my D&D map. Somebody named Gungus asked if I could do the Polynesian lands, and that's what I'm gonna do. Now the Polynesia, or not Polynesia, the Pacific Ocean, which includes Polynesia, and as you can see on this map, the Pacific Ocean is really, 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 really big. In real life, it's the biggest ocean on Earth, and in fake life, it is too. There's a lot of cultures, that you probably have heard of at the very least, or know a little bit about, that come from here. You can see, there's Hawaii. You got Hawaii. Well, okay. Let me go to this probably northwest towards otherwise, but yeah. It's a big. So, here you've got Siberia, basically Eastern Siberia, or like Kamchatka or whatever, and here's part of the Pacific. It's the Sea of Okhotsk or something. You got Sakhalin. Well, that's Asia, so we'll get to that in a different video if we do. But there's the Kuril Islands that connect Hokkaido, northern Japan, to Kamchatka. There's the Commanderskaya Basin, which is an underwater feature. There's the Bering Sea here between. Well, there's the Bering Strait, and here's Kamchatka. Here's Alaska. Gulf of Alaska. There's an abyssal plain here called Tufts Abyssal Plain. What that means is it's an underwater plain, and it's really, 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 really deep. So if you go there, you probably explode. We'll get to that. That's my ripoff of Morrowind. Because I think Morrowind fits well for this sort of thing. First, you got Hawaii, like I mentioned earlier, comprising many islands, including where is that? Mauna Loa. I believe that's a huge volcano. I think it's going in. This is the. Oh, there's an underwater volcano off the coast of this. Oh, sorry, my dog is Hitler, so he just wants attention. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the real stuff first. So obviously, the Hawaiians are part of a broader language family of the Polynesian speakers, who themselves are part of an even broader language-speaking family of the Austronesians. Different groups and ethnicities and nations of which can be found everywhere from Madagascar in southeastern Africa to the Pacific and southeastern Asia, and I think other places. Obviously now that the world is pretty much global, you've got a gajillion people of every ethnicity and language speaker. Pardon me. Pretty much everywhere. But Hawaii's cool. It's had many kingdoms throughout its time. And it's really cool. And I haven't placed any of the kingdoms. I'm sure when I get to it, King Kamehameha, is going to be somewhere here. He's going to be trying to conquer the whole island and become the most powerful man of the island. You can see there's some underwater things here, like the East Pacific Rise is a highland area. It kind of connects over here to the East Pacific. Well, it kind of keeps going, and then it connects to the Pacific Antarctic Ridge, which passes through this shit that we'll get to. Also, there's the Foundation Seamounts, which are underwater volcanoes. You can see there's some shit off the coast of South America. Got the Cocos Ridge. You've got the Galapagos Islands, where Charles Darwin did a lot of his evolutionary experiments, because these are pretty isolated islands and mostly just home to a small selection of creatures. And there's something, I don't know, Carnegie Ridge, which is probably like mountains or at least a rise or something. Atacama Trench, so that's a trench, probably, yeah, that's a trench, underwater. And it keeps going, Chile Ridge, a lot of shit there. Southeast Pacific Basin, it's an underwater basin, so there's like stuff there. I'm trying to, oh, here's one of the things from the Flat Earth map that I mentioned before. This is Happus, which is like, it's one of the cooler looking continents on that map. I've ripped it off on multiple versions of this map. I don't know why it looks so good, but it does. I don't know what is going to be on Happus, but I think it's going to be it could be a civilization of bird people, but I think a lot of the flat Earth maps, I'm going to do something like that with. You can see the Pacific Antarctic Ridge goes all over fucking place, and Gungus is. Now over here is a sacred land. The Maori have a name for it that I'm possibly going to change it to, because I think even people in New Zealand, or at least some people in New Zealand, have started calling their country by the indigenous Maori name, but I don't know. But yeah, it's New Zealand. It's where Lord of the Rings was filmed. And it's where the lost continent of Zealandia once stood before man rose. That's actually real life. There was a basically Australia-sized continent right about here. The remnants that are not beneath the ocean are the Highlands, which is New Zealand. And, at this period in prehistory, there's the Haast eagle, which is one of the biggest flying birds ever. They could pick up children and kill them. And there was also the moa, the biggest, I think one of the biggest land-dwelling birds ever. Imagine a giant emu or like cassowary. And so, of course, when the Maori came in, they're like, what the fuck? We have to kill all of these things. And they did. But in this prehistoric antediluvian age, the mythical antediluvian Maori are on these islands alongside the horrible bird monsters. And of course, the Maori and their relatives who are on one of these islands who are not as, don't have the same kind of warrior culture. I forget what they're called, but, they're going to be on this island. They just haven't placed them yet. I'm trying to see if there's... I don't want to miss anything. You can see here's the Midway Islands between Mosir, the kind of Japanese fantasy trope kind of thingy, majiggy. Not just Japanese, but, a lot of weird, like East meets West type shit and other weird... It's just kind of a generic fantasy continent full of different tropes that I liked and ideally none that I hate. But yeah, Midway, like World War II, Magellan Seamounts, that's more underwater volcanoes. Tamu Massif is the biggest volcano on Earth. I mentioned this in an earlier video. And because 2/3 of it is on this continent, I put it on the continent. But in reality, the whole thing is underwater. But yeah, it's really cool. Oh, here's something. The Marianas Trench. This is the deepest, in real life, this is the deepest part of the Earth, right? In terms of yeah, you can dig deeper than this. It's like 7 miles deep below, sea level, or below whatever. Oh, shut up, Teddy. We send ROV, cameras and shit down there all the time, and we find amazingly weird creatures. It's amazing, and they're just off of the Marianas Islands, rather. and including Guam and Saipan. Uh, Over here is some cool stuff. This is a lot of this is from real life mythology. Some of the names are shit I made up. We're not going to get to Japan because that'd be part of the Asia, but this sort of stuff east of here, where you can see this. What the fuck is that name? There's some islands here that are probably real, but I can't. I don't know how to read that. Dolto. I don't know. Um, you can see off the coast of Yonaguni here, the southernmost Ryukyu island of Japan, modern day Japan, is Dokasi Ruins. If you've ever heard of the Yonaguni Monument, it's this natural rock formation off the coast of this Japanese island of Yonaguni, where there's a lot of divers there, and people look at it and they're like, oh, this is lost ruins. This is the ruins of a lost civilization. There's pyramids and writing. Of course, nobody has ever taken a photo of like the writing. They're just like, look at these scratches on the rock. It has to be writing, even though I don't think anyone's taken a photo of the writing. And any pictures I've seen on Google Images, at least, are of different things that are not from Yonaguni. And also, it's proportioned in a way that would make it very difficult for humans to traverse. They're like, oh, it's a catastrophe. You know, some people think it's part of the lost continent of Mu, which we will get to in this video. But personally, I thought, you know, we can make this be the ruins of a lost civilization. But if the ruins themselves look untraversable by mankind, I was like, what if some kind of horrible, leggy abomination ruled there and enslaved humans to their will? And so that's what the Dokasi are, is they are a civilization of this species I made up called the Igg, I-G-G, and they're basically these pale, mouthless, mostly featureless, blank-eyed, pale white-skinned, many-legged, crawling, vaguely humanoid monsters from space who came from Mu at some point and came to Japan and East Asia and enslaved people, genetically engineered them to look different for seemingly unknown reasons, and enslaved them on these great pyramid island cities that eventually were sunk beneath the waves. And there's more of them elsewhere, but oh well. You can see here's the Umibozu. That's a cool Japanese fucking monster. Let me see. Is there a? I guess you know what? I'll just Google it. No, never mind. But basically, they're just giant black silhouette humans that guard people from leaving or entering Japan in Japanese mythology. They're basically a yokai, and I really like them. They're cool. I drew one once. It looked all right. So yeah, and also there's Elf Islands here. That's something I made up. Also, where are the Oni Islands? I didn't think that'd be retarded. Oh, also here's a Fiji Ningyo. Ningyo is a Japanese term for their version of a mermaid, and Fiji mermaid is a monkey mummified and stitched on, or otherwise desiccated and stitched onto a fish, trying to be sold as, oh, it's a real mermaid that was caught. And that was a trend that many people did, and they were called Fiji mermaids because they were, some of them, I don't know, maybe they were in Fiji, but lots of people all over the world have made those, including Japanese people over here. Yeah. There's also the Sea of Japan, in which there are sea dragon kingdoms, because both China and Japan and also Korea, I'm sure, have legends of, oh, there's dragon kings who live under the sea. Okay, here's the Oni Islands. Oni are these big, usually horned, although they're not always humanoid. Some of them are like slugs or snails, but they're basically like ogre demon monsters in Japanese mythology. There's red ones, there's blue ones, like I said, there's slug ones. And I had to have Oni Islands because Oni Pirates sounds too cool, and I like it. Yeah, there's Elf Islands, there's Japanese elves there. Here is a region that I kind of gave a name to, but it's mostly, right now it's mostly composed of Japanese and Chinese myth shit. So there's these are called the Shinsu Islands. Sorry, my dog's being a bastard. Let me crucify him. Don't worry, I'm not actually gonna hurt him. I'm just gonna hold him against his will. Basically, I had this idea long ago in my setting. Oh, what if there's islands east of Japan, which there already kind of was. I'm not gonna get into it. But basically, I just kept the name, and now these are these. So you've got different places. You've got Ronlang, which is something I made up. It's a necromancer kingdom. It's like a feudal, different necromancer lords screwing each other over and raising undead armies and being bastards, and enslaving the general populace. You've got the Island of the Jewel, which is a mythical Japanese thing that's supposed to be, I think, east of the Ryukyu Islands. You got Nirai Kanai, I don't know how to say that, which is, I think, a place of, like, sages or something. And there's legend that, oh, they came from the west of Okinawa right here to give us stuff, give us knowledge or something. I don't fucking know. And then Night Island, I think it's called something else, but Island of Night or something. This is probably just a translation. I don't remember what that is. Fusang is a really interesting one. It comes from Chinese writings, and it's the idea of like east of us and east of Japan, I guess, is this Bronze Age civilization called Fusang that has domesticated deer that they milk and has horses and a bunch of other weird shit. And I'm like, well, they've got to be there. And then there's Maharoba, which is very similar to Isle of the Jewel, except it's here. And I think both the Isle of the Jewel and Maharoba are, completely encircled by cliffs. But Maharoba, I believe, is supposed to be like a utopia, basically. And of course, you've got the Japan Trench going through these, because that's cool. And the Emperor Seamounts, that's more volcanoes. Sure. Trying to see, because I haven't gotten to the continents yet, because I want to get to the real stuff first, and then cover the stupid bullshit. Philippine Sea, it is the sea east of the Philippines. Look at that. Micronesia, this is another region inhabited by Austronesian speakers, a different group than the Polynesians, but still a very interesting group. There's many different cultures within them. I haven't labeled all of them, but you can see underwater here, mostly within Micronesia, is the Ontong Plateau. That is, or the Ontong Java Plateau, which is an underwater plateau that maybe has some islands. And then here is a really interesting site. On the island of Pohnpei, you've got the city of Nan Madol. Now, fringe weirdos who hate brown people will tell you that actually the brown people of Pohnpei couldn't have built Nan Madol because they were primitive. And that's because those people are racist. The Micronesians are something called a human. They're all humans. And that means they're really smart and adaptable and good at things. They're actually better at things than pretty much any other species on the planet currently. And we've kind of been that way since before we were Homo sapiens. So I kind of doubt that just because they were islanders that maybe didn't have a whole lot of metal or writing that they couldn't have built a city. But they did. And it's called Nan Madol. And it's cool. And I like it. And it's awesome. I think, as far as I know, this is the only indigenous city of the Pacific Islanders. I could be wrong, but it's cool. It's really cool. It's a real life thing, too. You've got Nauru, which is an island, I think. Over here, I think this might count as Micronesia. You've got the Kiribati Islands. Or island. Yeah. Basically, these guys are really cool. They're, I couldn't find easily, and maybe I was just looking poorly, whether these guys, like, language-wise, I mean, they're definitely, I'm pretty sure they're Austronesian speakers, but I think, whether they're Micronesians or, if their languages, I don't know. It might be its own kind of thing, but they're within kind of the borders of Micronesia and other places. And these guys are cool. They have, like, fish helmets. I mean that, like they'll take like a spiny fish, like a blowfish or something, and turn it into like a helmet. It's badass. They have like swords that have shark tooth blades, like the blade, almost kind of like the Aztec sword club things, the Macuahuitls or however they're pronounced. They have like that, but made of shark tooth. Isn't that fucking badass? The answer is yes. These guys are fucking cool. Um, I'm sorry, Teddy, but I can't let you go. You're gonna be mean. Here's the Marshall Islands. Here's Bikini Atoll. Of course, you already know that beneath Bikini Atoll is Bikini Bottom. Probably Caveman Bikini Bottom because that's funny. Um, SpongeGar and all that. That's dated memes. The memes are never dated unless you're a wimp. And I have anchor arms, so I'm not a wimp. Everyone loves me. Anyways, Nemetis is a thing from the Thongor of Lemuria, Cthulhu mythos, sword and sorcery, Conan the Barbarian type, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan mix up, Pellucidar, fucking John Carter Mars type thing, where in the ancient continent of Lemuria, Nemetis was the first human kingdom, and it warred with the Dragon Kings, who were the lizard men who ruled Lemuria, which at this point was a huge supercontinent, blah, blah, blah. Short story, this is an old human kingdom. It's like 500,000 years old. That's about it. And then there's the Solomon Islands, which there's a lot of cool things to say about the Solomon Islands. I just don't know most of them. I know they have, I think someone in the Solomon Islands, some group believes in the Adaro, which is like a Sharkman monster spirit thing, which is really cool, and I've seen pop up in a lot of fantasy RPGs. And this is actually a region called, is it even labeled? This is a region called Melanesia, and I don't know how far east it extends. Okay, I'll let you go, you stupid mongrel. Definitely not to Samoa, because I believe that's Polynesia. But maybe here, I don't know. But basically, Melanesia, it does have a lot of Austronesian groups, but this is actually the earliest settled part of the Pacific Islands, and I think you can see why. It's so close to Asia, and Papua kind of counts as Asia, at least part of it. And so the indigenous people here speak their own very interesting, very different, hugely diverse languages. But there are also Austronesian speakers here. The thing about the name Melanesia, if you know word language good, it basically means Black People Islands, islands of Black people. And that kind of goes to show that these people don't really have like a shared origin or like language, family, or anything like that. They're very diverse. They're all sorts of different groups. And and of course all the different Pacific Islanders have mixed, right? But to differing degrees, obviously. And so, this is Vanuatu, which I could tell you more about that. I think it's a series of islands or a nation or something. New Caledonia, same thing there. VT. Oh, I wish I could say that. This is the region. These are the Fiji Islands, I guess. Different islands labeled. Here's Tonga. I knew someone who went to Tonga and I believe speaks the language, so that's kind of cool. Like, I kind of knew that. I didn't really get to know them very well, but Samoa. And you can see I've labeled it in capitals. That means it's a country. Tui Tonga. This is the belief in a Pacific Islander empire, basically, between some of these islands. And certainly that is a wide distribution of control, if it was controlled. And I was like, okay, cool. That might be real. I don't really know. I don't know the archaeology. They also got the Cook Islands, including Mangala, Mangala, I don't know how to say it. Austral Islands, Society Islands, Leeward Islands, Windward Islands, Tahiti. You gotta rob Tahiti and Red Dead 2, and your characters don't even know where Tahiti is. Which, if you're playing that game and you know where Tahiti is, you're like, oh no, they're doomed. Because he's like, oh, where's Tahiti? He's like, I don't know, we'll find it. Like, maybe you won't. Tuamotu Islands, Gambier Islands, Marquesas Islands, Pacific Antarctic Ridge. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that is real life. Real life? No. Oh, sorry, I have to beat my dog. Don't worry, I don't actually beat my dog. I treat him very well. He's just insane. I have to hold him so that he doesn't misbehave. He's stupid. You're stupid, Teddy. You're just stupid. Easter Island. Cool thing about Easter Island. Not only did the really cool, really smart, really talented brown people who live there, not only did they have a cool civilization, not only did they build the Moai heads, not only did they move them on their own with their human brains, with tools that they made with their human brains, but also they had writing. It's called Rongo Rongo. Very little of it survives today because they mostly wrote it. I mean, I don't think we have any on stone. We might. But it seems like it was a highly individualized thing because, I don't know, I don't think we can... pardon me. I don't think we can read it, but yeah, it's cool. And also the Hawaiians, ended up sailing right about this area and bringing the sweet potato with them and fucking some people so that their genetics would be there for us to find later. And so they probably did that before Columbus. So anyone who says Columbus discovered America is wrong, and they should cry. Just kidding. It's okay to learn things. You don't have to feel bad. So I think that's the real places. Now we can get to the stupid bullshit. The fantasy continents. So I guess I'll start with the one that I mostly made up. I don't think there's there's a lot of here that's just like rip-offs, which we'll get to. But first, you've got the bizarre Bugmen civilization. Basically, like 2 million years ago or something, from the underground world of the Hollow Earth came crawling these horrible, bizarre Bugmen. And they decided to build civilizations here. And as you can see, there's a place called Death Mound. I believe that is probably one of their metropolises, where if you go there, you die. Here's a land called Mekem. I don't know anything about it, other than within it is the civilization of Pelsheth, which I believe is they're seagoing, and they have a lot of pearls, and they dress in white, and they're weird. Tamu Volcano, already kind of went over that kind of twice, but you know. Tecomaz is a civilization of bunker mound cities of the cat people, specifically the Neko cat people. In other words, the kind of less furry, less kaji, more anime cat person, but kind of like a more grounded fantasy version of that. Not like cat people are realistic, but you get what I mean. They don't dress like super models or whatever. They dress like medieval, ancient weirdo warriors who want to fight and kill. Over here is a Turka. That's a land that is between the Tamu volcano and the southwestern Emperor's Mountains. I'm vaguely inspired by kind of early modern Anatolia maybe, or mostly the artwork of some of the artwork of Yoshitaka Amano, who's amazing artist. And if you don't like his art, you're racist. Anyways, I'm joking, but I love his art. There's the 9 Star Towers, which are ancient things that were built by wizards, and they track the movements of the stars and the different celestial bodies, and they each draw upon the power of a different one, and you could definitely do magic there. Here's something I made up that I recently placed on this continent because it fit. It was already in Eurasia, but I moved over here. The Ranru Sea. This is where you got the civilization of Pan-Paramus, which is kind of a quasi-Southeast Asian, kind of vaguely Vietnamese, vaguely, I don't know, I haven't figured out the inspirations yet, but they're a very interesting, weird civilization, lost in the modern day, one that I made up. Chitinous Mold Men, These are some of the indigenous, more old inhabitants of the Ranru Sea. They are basically big piles of slimy mold that has armor plating, and they're alive, and they're sapient, and they're sentient, and they just live on their islands, and they kind of do stuff. And then there's the pterosaur men. These are the pterodactyl men. You gotta have those. And then over here are the blue fire woods, where the blue flames of the souls of the dead rest. I don't know anything more than that. Mount Vehefka is something me and my friend Will made up. Basically, these three powerful sages wanted to store their knowledge, so they split a mountain in half, and they made a library in the crater, and there you go. So that's their ancient knowledge. Over here is the region of Eshu. It's like kind of an analogous, almost like a little bit Europe. Not exactly. It's not. It's got some anime in it. It's got some East Asia in it. It's got some Asia in general, not just East Asia in it. But it's basically yeah, it's kind of like a big region of kind of East meets West kind of civilizations. One of which is Samaria, which is an empire, which is a feudal group of different states that are kind of inspired by Fire Emblem. Everyone's got weird, wacky hair colors, but they dress a little more grounded. Not that Fire Emblem has crazy character designs always, but sometimes. Here's Cenobed. You ever played Skyrim? You ever been to Labyrinthian? Yeah. Over here is Tarus Ruins. That's that Graham Hancock thing. The stupid Atlantis North America bullshit that he makes up and lies about. Here's the Sun Sea. It's a region between the Northeast Emperor's Mountains and the Zares Mountains, which I made these up a bajillion years ago. And most of these places too. The Olkiri were like seafaring people. I don't know. They're kind of inspired by India, Pakistan, Iran, sort of different stuff. And then there's the Chalcolithic, in other words, Copper Age, long-armed orcs. Those are their guys. Divistan, I'm going to have to change that name. It's the land of the Divs, which are a mythical race of supernatural beings from, I want to say Zoroastrianism or something. Maybe something else, I don't remember. Neolithic Neanderthals, that's what it sounds like. They're Stone Age Neanderthals who have farming. And then it's Slaver's Gulf, which is a very original name and definitely not ripped off of Game of Thrones, Slaver's Bay at all. You've got the cities of Gulanai and Yankai. Again, very original names. You've got the Imperial Sea, where you got the Emperor's Seamounts, and you got the Elf Sailors. You got the Inner South Emperor's Mountains over here, which are scattered. And then you got the region of Narland. This is a more tropical place. Sunsea is very arid. There are inhabitable, civilized areas, but it's mostly a desert and scrubland and shit. Narland is more tropical, right? It's got these jungles. You got the Kingdom of Jinta, which is like a quasi. I almost think of it as like, what if a Central Asian or like West Asian sort of medieval Muslim kind of quasi-Arab, but not really. They're not like linguistically or culturally very Arab. But like, what if a group that was sort of inspired by that had grown up in the jungle and shit and had a different kind of culture entirely? And there's nothing like them at all. So that's basically what that is. Garrus, the Gerudo? Yeah, that's basically what that is. And over here is my ripoff of Morrowind. So you've got the land of Ashunab, the land of the Dark Elves. You got the Western Highlands. You've got Crab Valley and the Blighted Wastes. You've got the Mage's Wastes. You've got Moorhall, where you got Oran Plantation. You got fucking Ebonheart. You can see the very original names. Thir Valley, Almost Thir. These are from the Tamriel Rebuilt mod. Balfoyan, the Stonefall Coast, Necrom, what's this? Narau, the Green Coast, on which is the city of Grand Vec, That's a very original name. The Great Marsh, you got the Great Marsh from the beginning of the game. You got Hamu Fields, you got the Blue Pearl Coast, you got the Mad Coast. And that's basically what I put for most here, but now we get to go to the things I didn't make up. Over here is the lost continent of Mu. The map that I've drawn is very much inspired by the 1800s James Churchward map, who was a guy who popularized Mu as a continent in the Pacific and all that. Although I've significantly changed a lot of his stuff. We'll start from, well, there's not much, but we'll start right here. The Western Kingdoms are a thing I made up. They are a civilization of multiple kingdoms of humans, of different groups, different unrelated groups who are like, listen, we have to band together to save ourselves and mankind from the abominable alien gods from the fucking nightmare realms, or else everyone's gonna die. And they're right, because right over here is the Empire of Gitano Thoa. That is a great old one, the firstborn of Cthulhu, a impossibly powerful alien god that demands sacrifice. He's a big leathery tentacle-mouthed monster from fucking hell. His empire's fallen and risen, and this part of Mu has been under the control of different great old ones at different times, but Gitana Thoa is the one that consistently comes back and asserts his power. Over here you've got the Naacal civilization of homeland. Now the thing about the Naacal is I've completely butchered them to make them better. So the original myth of the Naacal is that on the continent of Mu in the Pacific Islands, the Naacal were the civilization, and they rose up and brought civilization to the world, and they had, they went to Mesoamerica and Iran and India and pretty much everywhere, and they were cool. However, they were white in the original version, and they had no relation to, the Polynesians or the Pacific Islanders at all. And in fact, their fall was attributed to the Polynesians' ancestors devolving into cannibalism and killing all the nice white people. So of course I said, well, that's fucking retarded, and I hate it. So what I said was, okay, my Naacal, right? They're a poly-species, pan-ethnic group of humans and non-humans who attained a fucking enormously powerful civilization, right? They could make their own gods, control the weather. They had like some light electrical working in like a fantastical way. Almost think more of the Thief series and less like 21st century or even 1800s. But they made bombs, they had airships, they had all this shit, right? And they weren't one unified group politically, but they were a vast worldwide civilization. And then white savages from the north came in and destroyed the homeland and somehow destroyed the whole civilization. And here are those white savages. They're basically mutants, and they're basically horrible subhumans, and they want to eat you, and they want to destroy everything you love because it makes them happy. So that's basically, that's Mu so far. You can see I carved a little bit of the landmass up for some reason. I forget why I did that. Now over here, also, I completely forgot. See this Quasi-Lapita culture here? These guys, I guess I named it Quasi because either I think they're not a thing yet at the time that this map takes place, 4500 BCE. But, this is like a mythical ancestral version of them, not like an actual prehistoric version. But they are the ancestors to a lot of Austronesian people. One of the ancestors, of course. Austronesians originate from... This is Taiwan. They originate from here, and there's stories of the Yue Kingdom that kind of make people think, well, maybe those guys were related too because of the material culture they had. And actually, the Yue were amazing fucking blacksmiths. The most well-preserved sword we've ever found is a Bronze Age Yue sword. It's fucking It looks like it was made yesterday. It's a fucking art miracle. Anyways, and here are the other two kingdoms. Now, I was talking about how Mu is, people have racism about it. Well, that's what this is. So Pan, some weirdo in the 1800s, some mystical weirdo whose name I forget, claimed, "Oh, I have the new Bible. It's called OASPE, spelled OAHSPE. He called it OASPE, a new Bible." And it was a bunch of racist race evolution, pseudo-evolution, pseudoscience, racist nonsense where he's like, "Oh, well, there were these sacred white and quote-unquote yellow short people called the Ihins, and they were the sacred folk. And then all the other browner races, like the Yaks and the Druks and the Ikhwans, they were all savage hybrid subhumans, some of whom had interbred with the Asu, which were the proto-humans who had short legs and long arms and ate from the tops of trees and had incest. So I've just decided, okay, I'm going to take those species of human, because he treats them as species. They're not like different ethnicities. They're like yeah. So I took that and I said, okay, how do I fuck that up? So, I've labeled some places, like, oh, there's these seamounts, so I make those volcanoes, the fires of Magas, the fires of Plateau, the fucking fires of Au, Marcanian Sea, Magassian Sea, just shit I haven't really fleshed out. But I'm like, okay, so obviously the Ahins, I mean, I don't want to I am somewhat uncomfortable with the idea of a human species, and I'm not just talking about ethnicity, obviously that too, but a human species that is inherently driven towards evil. So I didn't want to make the tiny pasty guys all evil, but I'm like, okay, but their civilization and culture can be corrupt. That's fine. That's real life. And so you can see there's a Hin slaver cities here in this volcanic. This is probably a very lush place, actually. This is the region comprising these two continents, Pan and Rutas. It's called the Green Sea region. I'll get to why later. This is the land of the slaver cities. And there's this land here, this little peninsula called the Deathlands, that they don't let people go to. And they say, if you go there, you're outlawed forever and we're going to fucking kill you as soon as we know you've been there. Because the hidden city of Cthulhu, where he rests indefinitely, is underwater here. And so they don't want people going there. And there's Lurth. It's an island. I don't know what's on there. Probably deep ones. Also, there's the island of Zauk? Zok? What is Zag. Okay, it's... Oh, I get it. The island is named Zag, and the outpost of the Movians, the Western Movians, who want to not let the alien gods take over the world. They have an outpost here called Zauk on the island of Zag. So that's a really good name. I'm definitely not embarrassed of that. You can see here are the colony towns of the Fulagite kingdoms of Rutas, which we'll get to. There's the Jade Mountains. You can notice there's a lot of green stuff here. You want to know why that is? Because Cthulhu is green. He's a green squid man. He lives here. And he's going to kill everyone. You can see there's the southern Ahin cities. This is a different cultural group of Ahins than these guys. Don't know what separates them, but hey, they're probably very different. The Undu Mountains, Ikhwan towns. These are the copper-skinned, basically human-looking dudes. Although I think they have like long feet, which is weird, but they're basically just humans, like Homo sapiens more or less. The Ikhwan Cthulhu cults. So these are more Ikhwans. The usually, not always, but usually copper-skinned, long-footed guys. And these guys worship Cthulhu. They want the world to end because they're insane and they like to eat babies. So these guys are fucked in the head. They're not even like a culture. This is like a bunch of ne'er-do-wells and like psychotics. Here you can see the Druk sea canoe mobile port towns. The Druks are like monster men. I have kind of interpreted them as like what they call the Frazetta man archetype of like just a horrible subhuman caveman in a Frank Frazetta painting. That's basically what these guys are, and they have sea canoes. and they have port towns where they go from those steam canoes, and they raid towns and eat people. You can see there's some yaks here. These are four-legged humans who, well, they basically walk on their front hands, so they're like, yeah. But they're cool, but they're also incestuous. They're basically not people brain. They're like 1/3 people brain. So they inbreed a lot, and that's normal for them, but it's not good. So hopefully someone can teach them not to do that. And then over here, and this is a commune, so it's like a big community of them, like caring for each other and farming. So I guess, other than the horrible inbreeding, I guess they're doing well for themselves. Over here, some yak tribes, same forward-legged guys, but whatever. Over here, I decided to make some Ihins that might actually be somewhat sympathetic. We've got the white hair Ihin tent cities. And the idea here is this is a sort of a wasteland that these basically albino, or not even albino, but like white-haired, they have a gene for white hair, Ihins live, and they're outcasts to all the others. And, these guys probably would be more humane to like the yaks and the Ihwans and the druks. They're probably less racist, and you could probably reason with most of them. I don't think none of them are racist, because that'd be retarded. Here's the Asu, the subhuman men. Anything else here? Oh yeah, Druk beast rider nomads. These are those cavemen riding beasts and nomading. Over here, you've got volcano-worshipping Ihwan Highlanders in the Jarana Highlands. So these guys worship volcanoes, and they are Highlanders, so that's cool. Over here you've got Copper Age Ihwan towns, so they're Copper Age, and they probably got farming. Is that all on this? Yeah, more or less. Over here is Rutos. Now both of these are very obscure Mu-type, Atlantis-type continents. But basically, Rutos is one that I've actually put more effort into slightly. I've got a little bit more of it figured out. Like, for instance, my Atlantean Empire of this period originates from Rutos, but that's because I'm retarded. So basically, you've got the land of Kuda here. What is Kuda? What makes Kuda Kuda? It's a vast, wild landmass of jungles and wetlands. So that's a thing. You've got the Namu Mountains. You've got savage cannibal parameganthropes. So what that means, do I have an image of this? Oh, I don't. Sad. Basically, well, I do. It's just I would have to find it. Basically, there's this old interpretation of this ape that is now considered to be a distant relative of the orangutan, that it was actually a species of derived Homo erectus that had become giant, and therefore it was a giant intelligent human. Now that would have been really fucking cool, and so I stuck it in my game. But in reality, the Meganthropus, which at first they're like, is this even a real ape? But then they found out, yes, it is. It's just not a human. It's an orangutan. It's not even an orangutan, it's like a distant relative. But, basically. You got the Nain Mountains, those are probably horrible. You've got the Fuligite Kingdoms. These are kingdoms that are the world's supply for this metal called Fuligite, which is a black metal heavily inspired by ebony in the Elder Scrolls. It's really, really fucking good for armor and weapons. It's like some shit a king would use. It's something a king would definitely want. And it's, there's a bunch of different kingdoms, and it's also a group of civilizations, and they've probably got fucked up everything. They're probably horrible, and because they're from Rutos, I might make them related to my Rutosian Atlanteans and make them brown-skinned and white-haired, because that's cool, but I don't know. Figure it out. Gates of Moor, they're these gates that are volcanoes. Foundations of the gods, it's all these volcanoes, I guess, including the Gates of Moor. You've got the Aranamu Mountains, you've got the Mog Islands, you've got the Kwarangi tribes in the Zor Valley. Do I know anything about those guys? So the Kwarangi tribes are Jade's craftsmen, and they're headhunters. So they like to cut people's heads off and sell them. So that's pretty nice of them. You can see there's burning fog here. So basically, this area kind of traps all the volcanic bullshit from around it, And so this whole area is toxic to be in. Your eyes will bleed. Your skin will burn. So if you want to go here, you gotta find some way to prepare yourself. There's the Goho Mountains. There's the Vanara Exiles, which are monkey men from Hindu mythology, and some of them have been exiled here, probably of no harm, of no fault of their own. You've got the Vobat Mountains, and then over here you've got Diabolus Vanara. So you see, oh, you don't actually. So the Diabolus Vanara decided to come here, and then some of them were like, "Hey, I don't want to worship demons," and they're like, "Well, fuck you." And so these are the exiles of these people. So these are the nice monkey people, although they're not all nice, but these are definitely the ones that like sacrifice children to Beelzebub and like eat babies. Here's the Naba Mountains, just names. Tia Savannah, where you've got the the Darkea Raptor Rider Nomad. Basically, without getting too much into the South America stuff, there's this hoax where people were making fake quote unquote million-year-old rocks with like quote unquote evidence of an advanced million-year-old civilization in Peru 1 million years ago, brought by alien humans called the Glyptolithic Men. And one of the people who was perpetuating it was this guy named Darkea. And so I named this group of artificially created by alien humans Homo sapiens the Darkea. And they're since that was 1 million years ago, they're extremely diverse. And they are definitely not one culture or language or skin color or hair color or anything, but they're basically just a lineage of humans that were artificially created by alien humans 1 million years ago. They have dinosaur domestication, they have brain surgery, they have metal, they have writing, they have spaceships. Some of them, not all of them have spaceships, most of them don't, but you know, some of them have spaceships. They're just wacky. Yes, like if I want to place a group of people into the Americas that like aren't really Amerindians or are like really fucking weird, and it's like, well, why are these guys like they could be, right? There's huge variety there. It's just basically they're like a fantasy group of humans, and these guys ride raptors and they're nomads, and they must have come from South America. At some point, again, that was 1 million years ago they were created, so not unreasonable that one of them is here. Here's the kingdom of Ukola. It is a maritime kingdom. Here is the Ivory Desert. There's a lot of monsters and animals with ivory there that Ukola probably slaughters. There's the Black Desert, which is probably contested between the Fulagite kingdoms and Ukola. You've got the kingdom of Jagoda. Did I learn anything for Jagoda? Or was it just stupid bullshit? Oh, they're Neolithic axe-worshipping Heidelberg... Oh, that's awesome. So these are axe-worshipping Homo heidelbergensis guys, which means they are basically one of the possible shared ancestors with us and Neanderthals, right? So these are intelligent humans and everything. They're just a little more archaic than us. And then over here, you've got the island of Adiskad, which is maybe not the best name. You got the Snake Men alchemist compounds. Very big thing in sword and sorcery is Snake Men and their alchemy. It's fun, and they have chemistry and all sorts of weird shit. So there's some Snake Men alchemist compounds, and then you've got the Hapesian birdfolk nests. So basically, from Hapis over here. There are birdmen, there are intelligent birds, basically natural birds that landed here a bajillion years ago and evolved intelligence and civilization, and some of them have decided to build their nests on the island of Adiskad next to the Snake Men compounds. Who knows if that's a mutually beneficial relationship or if the Hapesians better get the fuck out of there. Who knows? Is that really all of the Pacific? Oh, I think that might be... Let me just make one last little... You know, I think this really is. Yeah. So I think that's all. I might do more. If you want to see more, tell me what more you want to see. Because, I can go over the Americas, I can go over Asia, I can go over Africa, I can go over Europe, I can go over the Atlantic, which has got a whole bunch of weird shit. We already went over... most of the rest, I think. So, yeah, just let me know. I hope you have a good day.